You ever wonder what it feels like to give everything you have to the people you love, only to realize they don't love you back? Not the real you, anyway. Just the parts of you that come with a dollar sign. That's where my story begins. And trust me, it's a wild ride. My name's Evelyn Harper, and I'm 72 years old. I've spent most of my life being the kind of mom who'd do anything for her kid. But last year, I learned a lesson that turned my world upside down. Sometimes, the people you love the most are the ones who'll hurt you the deepest, and sometimes, the only way to save yourself is to walk away. It all started with a phone call. I was sitting in my cozy little kitchen in suburban Ohio, sipping my morning coffee, thinking about my son, Jake, and his fiancée, Sarah. They'd been engaged for a while, and I was itching to know when the big day would be. I'd already picked out a dressa soft lavender number that cost me $200. I could already picture myself smiling in their wedding photos, proud as can be. So, I dialed Jake's number, my heart light with excitement. Sarah answered, her voice sharp, almost too cheerful. "Oh, Evelyn," she said, and I swear I could feel her staring right through me, even over the phone. "We got married yesterday. It was just for special people." Special people. Those words hit me like a punch to the gut. For 3 years, I'd been their lifeline. $500 a month for their rent, straight out of my savings, furniture for their apartment couch, dining table, even the bed they slept on. I paid for it all. Groceries when their fridge was empty. That lavender dress, still hanging in my closet, unworn. And now, I wasn't special enough to be at my only son's wedding. I stood there in my living room, the phone heavy in my hand, watching Jake avoid my eyes while Sarah lounged on the very couch I'd bought them. My world tilted. I'd spent years making sure they were okay. 3 years of dipping into my retirement, my late husband Tom's life insurance, just to keep them afloat. I'm talking $25,000, maybe more, poured into their lives. I ate canned soup some nights so they could have steak. I counseled my own plans to make sure their bills were paid. And for what? To be left out of the most important day of my son's life. Jake mumbled something about it being small, just us and a couple witnesses. But I knew better. I saw the truth on social media later that night. Photos of Sarah's parents, grinning ear to ear, her brothers clinking champagne glasses, Sarah in a white dress I'd unknowingly helped pay for with the $800. I'd given her 4 personal expenses. Everyone was there, everyone but me. A week later, Sarah called again. Her voice wasn't smug this time, it was shaky, desperate. "Evelyn, the rent's overdue. The landlord's threatening to kick us out if we don't pay by Friday. You forgot the transfer." I'd never forgotten a single payment in 3 years. I'd run to the bank like clockwork, canceling my own dreams to keep a roof over their heads. And now, after they'd cut me out of their wedding, they had the nerve to call like nothing happened. I took a deep breath, my voice steady as I said, "Sarah, didn't I tell you, I only help special people?" The silence on the other end was deafening. For once, she was the one trembling, not me. "Evelyn, I don't understand," she stammered. "You've always been like a second mom to me." Lies, sweet, practiced lies, the kind she used every time she needed something. The wedding dress, the honeymoon, the rings. I'd helped pay for it all, thinking I was part of their family. But those 4 words, "only special people," woke something up in me, something fierce. I wasn't just a mom anymore. I was a woman who'd been used, and I was done. That night, I sat on my bed, staring at the ceiling. Tears came, but they weren't sad. They were angry, hot with years of pent-up frustration. I'd been the perfect mom, the generous mother, always saying yes, always giving more. I'd spent over 25 grand money. Tom and I had saved for our golden years on 2 people who didn't even think I deserved an invitation. I cried for the fool I'd been, for the love I'd chased that was never real. But when I woke up the next morning, something had shifted. I looked in the mirror and saw a spark in my eyes I hadn't seen in years. A hardness fire. I made my coffee, sat at my kitchen table, and started doing the math. $500 a month for rent, times 36 months. That's 18 grand right there. Groceries, $200 a month. Another 7,200. Birthday gifts, Christmas presents, random emergencies. They always had 3,000 more. Car repairs, medical bills, that air conditioner I replaced in their apartment easily, another 5 grand, $25,000. Gone. Money I'd scraped together from my pension, from Tom's inheritance, from a life of careful saving, all to keep 2 grown adults comfortable while they treated me like I was nothing. The phone rang. Jake's name flashed on the screen. Normally, I'd pick up in a heartbeat, hoping for an apology, a sign he still cared. But this time, I let it ring. Once, twice, 3 times, then silence. Sarah called next. I let that ring, too. A text came through. Mom, please, we need to talk. I deleted it without a second thought. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for their approval. I wasn't waiting for their love. I was done. That afternoon, I went for a walk. Not to the bank, not to the store for their groceries, just a walk for me. I passed the park where I used to take Jake when he was little. He'd hug me tight, call me the best mom in the world. When did that sweet boy turn into a man who saw me as a cash machine? When did I start believing I had to buy his love? I didn't have answers, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to keep paying for it. I stopped by the bank, where I'd made countless transfers to Jake and Sarah, the manager. Mr. Thompson waved me in. He'd seen my account shrink month after month, always with a kind word but never prying. Evelyn, what's up? He asked. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. I'm canceling all the automatic transfers to my son, and I want to lock down my accounts. No one but me gets access. He looked surprised but nodded. You sure? He asked. Oh, I've never been surer, I said. And just like that, I cut the cord. The moment I canceled those transfers, it was like I'd flipped the switch. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing Jake, Sarah, Jake again, like they could sense their lifeline slipping away. I turned it off and felt a rush of freedom. For the first time in years, I wasn't tethered to their needs, but I knew this wasn't over. People like Jake and Sarah don't just let go of something they've come to expect. And I was right. A few days later, I came home from the grocery store buying food for myself for once and saw 3 cars parked outside my house. Jake's beat-up sedan, Sarah's shiny new SUV, and one I didn't recognize. My heart skipped a beat. They had keys to my place. I'd given them to Jake years ago, back when I thought trust was a two-way street. Through the window, I saw movement inside my own house. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just a visit. This was an invasion. I took a deep breath and opened the door. There they were. Jake slouched on my couch, head in his hands, Sarah pacing like a trapped animal, and some guy in a suit rifling through my papers on the dining table. My papers, my bank statements, my bills, my life. What the hell is going on here? I said, my voice louder than I expected. They all froze, like I was the one intruding. Sarah spoke first, her voice dripping with fake concern. Evelyn, thank God you're here. We need to talk. This is Mr. Lawson, our lawyer. He's here to help with your situation, my situation. I almost laughed. And what situation would that be? I'm doing just fine. Jake finally looked up, his eyes full of panic, not for me, but for himself. Mom, we went to the bank. They said you canceled the transfers and locked us out of your accounts. We don't understand why you'd do this. Mr. Lawson, all slick and professional, stepped forward with a handshake I didn't take. Mrs. Harper, I'm a family law attorney. Your son and daughter-in-law are worried about your mental health. They've asked me to assess whether you're fit to manage your affairs. I felt the room spin. Mental health. They were trying to paint me as some confused old lady who needed to be locked away. All because I'd stopped paying their bills. I grabbed my papers from the table, my hand shaking with rage. These are mine. You have no right to touch them. Jake stood up, his voice patronizing, like he was talking to a child. Mom, we're just worried. You're acting strange, cutting us off, ignoring our calls. We think you need help. Sarah reached for my hand, her eyes glistening with crocodile tears. Evelyn, we know you're lonely. At your age, it's normal to get a little confused. That word confused a fire in me. They weren't just after my money anymore. They wanted to strip me of my freedom, my dignity. They wanted to declare me incompetent so they could control my life. I'm not confused, I said, my voice steady as steel. I'm clearer than I've been in years. Now get out of my house. Mr. Lawson tried to smooth things over, his voice all calm and lawyerly. Mrs. Harper, your family has a right to intervene. If they believe you're making irrational decisions, we've documented some concerning behaviors. Concerning behaviors, I laughed, sharp and bitter. You mean deciding my money's mine? Or not wanting to be treated like a stranger by my own son? Get out, all of you. They left, but not without a fight. Jake threw a tantrum, saying they had obligations, rent, car payments, a credit card I'd co-signed. Sarah cried, saying they'd made plans based on my help. Plans. With my money. Not once did they mention me as a person, only what I owed them. As the door slammed shut, I stood in my quiet living room, surrounded by a silence that felt like victory. I wasn't trembling anymore. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not out of fear, but out of adrenaline. I was done being their doormat. I started planning. First, I'd change the locks. No more uninvited guests. Second, I'd get cameras, installed real security, not paranoia. Third, I'd call my lawyer, Mr. Callahan, a man I'd trusted since Tom's will. He'd know how to protect me. At 6 in the morning, I was up, dressed, and ready. Mr. Callahan listened to my story, his face growing darker with every word. Evelyn, this is elder financial abuse. It's a crime. Them going through your papers, that's a violation of your privacy. We need to document everything, every dollar you gave them, every time they pressured you. We spent hours going over my bank records. $25,000 in 3 years. Mr. Callahan shook his head. You could have taken a cruise, Evelyn, renovated your house, lived your life. Instead, you bankrolled theirs. He was right, but I wasn't wallowing. I was fighting back. We planned to secure my accounts, change my will, and make sure Jake and Sarah couldn't touch a cent. By the time I left his office, I felt like a general gearing up for battle. Next stop, the hardware store. Mr. Jenkins, the owner, knew me from all the times I'd bought stuff for Jake's apartment. Another emergency for your son, he asked with a smile. Nope, I said, grinning back. This time, it's for me. I need new locks, the best you've got. He didn't ask questions, just got to work. His son, Mike, offered to install a security system. Price isn't an issue, I told him. For once, I was spending on myself, and it felt damn good. While they set up the cameras, Sarah called from a new number. Evelyn, please, don't hang up. We messed up with the wedding. Let's have a special dinner to celebrate. Just us. We can cook like old times. I could hear the desperation in her voice, but I wasn't falling for it. Sarah, how much is the rent you owe? Silence. Then, 2 months, $1,000. But this isn't just about that, Evelyn. We miss you. I cut her off. Do you miss me? Or my money? When was the last time you called just to see how I was? More silence. I hung up, my heart racing but steady. I was done playing their game. That afternoon, I treated myself to a salon visit. Hair, nails, the works. I hadn't been in over a year, always putting Jake and Sarah's needs first. The stylist, Lisa, beamed. Evelyn, you look radiant. What's changed? I smiled. I learned how to say no, as she worked. We talked about her life, her kids, her dreams. It was the first real conversation I'd had in years that didn't revolve around someone else's problems. I walked out feeling like a new woman, not just because of the haircut, but because I was finally choosing myself. Life was starting to feel good again, like I was waking up from a long, bad dream. I was painting in my garden, something I hadn't done since before Jake and Sarah became my full-time job. The flowers on my canvas were bright, bold, like the new me. But then, a car pulled up outside my house, not Jake or Sarah's this time, but a woman I didn't know, sitting on my porch steps with a warm smile. Mrs. Harper, she said as I stepped out. I'm Margaret, your neighbor. I heard some commotion the other day. Everything okay? Her kindness caught me off guard. I invited her in for coffee, and ended up spilling the whole story: the wedding, the money, the lawyer in my house. Margaret listened, her eyes soft but knowing. Evelyn, I went through something like that with my son years ago. Thought I had to keep paying for his life to keep him close. But when I stopped, he learned to stand on his own. It hurt, but it saved us. Her words were like a lifeline. For the first time, I realized I wasn't alone. Margaret became my rock. She introduced me to her friends Lynn, Susan, and Rose, women who'd all faced their own battles, with family who saw them as wallets instead of people. We'd sit in Margaret's backyard, sharing stories, laughing, sometimes crying. It was the first time in years I felt seen, not for what I could give, but for who I was. They called themselves the Silver Sisters, and they welcomed me with open arms. For the first time, I had a tribe, but Jake and Sarah weren't done. One morning, as I sipped coffee and read the paper, my doorbell rang. The cameras showed a young woman with a clipboard and a professional smile. My stomach dropped. Good morning, Mrs. Harper, she said when I opened the door. I'm Miss Carter from Senior Services. We've had a report that you might be at risk. I'm here for a wellness check. A wellness check. My blood boiled. This wasn't concern. This was war. I let her in, but called Mr. Callahan first. I'm not answering anything without my lawyer, I told her. She looked flustered but nodded. When Mr. Callahan arrived, he didn't hold back. Miss Carter, I hope you have a court order, because this smells like harassment. My client's been through enough. Miss Carter pulled out a form, her voice shaky. We've had reports of erratic behavior, cutting off family, installing cameras, refusing medical help. I recognized Sarah's handiwork in every word. They were painting me as a crazy old lady to get their hands on my money. Ms. Carter, I said, my voice calm but firm. I stopped supporting my son because he and his wife used me for years. I installed cameras because they broke into my house. And I don't need medical help because I'm perfectly fine. Mr. Callahan handed her a stack of papers, bank records, my clean bill of health, statements from friends. This is elder abuse, he said. You're investigating the wrong person. Miss Carter left, promising to close the case. But I knew Jake and Sarah wouldn't stop. They were desperate, and desperate people do desperate things. Mr. Callahan confirmed my fears that afternoon. They're building a case to declare you incompetent. They've got witnesses saying you're erratic, unpaid bills they claim you ignored, even a doctor saying your refusal of a psych eval proves you're unstable. Unpaid bills. I didn't have any. A doctor I'd never met. This was a setup. We fought back. I met with Dr. Ellis, a psychiatrist Mr. Callahan trusted. She put me through every test: memory, logic, math. Evelyn, you're sharper than most people half your age, she said when we were done. Her report was a shield, proof I was in my right mind. Next, we tracked down my pharmacist, Mr. Patel, who'd signed a statement for Sarah claiming I was irregular with meds. She tricked me, he admitted, red-faced. I thought it was for insurance. You only buy vitamins. He wrote a new statement, setting the record straight. Then there was Mr. Klein, my nosy neighbor who'd called me crazy for installing cameras. He admitted he barely knew me, just saw what Sarah fed him. His testimony was flimsy, and we knew it. Margaret and the Silver sisters rallied around me, promising to testify to my clarity, my strength. You're not alone, Evelyn, Rose said, squeezing my hand. We've got your back. But the storm was coming. A few weeks later, Mr. Callahan showed up at my door, his face grim. They've filed a lawsuit, Evelyn. They're asking the court to declare you mentally incompetent and appoint Jake as your guardian. My heart sank. This wasn't just about money anymore. They wanted to control my life, to strip me of my freedom. I sat down, the weight of their betrayal crushing me. My own son, the boy I'd raised alone after Tom died, was trying to lock me away for his own gain. We'll fight this, Mr. Callahan said. We've got evidence, sure, psych eval bank records, witness statements. They have to prove you're incompetent, and they can't. I nodded, but fear crept in. What if they bribed someone? What if the judge believed their lies? That night, I sat with Margaret, pouring my heart out. They're willing to destroy everything for money, I said, even if I wanted to forgive them. How do you come back from this? Margaret looked me in the eye. You don't. You move forward. You live for you now. Her words stuck with me. I wasn't fighting just for my money. I was fighting for my life, my dignity, my right to be more than a bank account. And I wasn't going to lose. The weeks before the trial were a whirlwind. I painted, gardened, had coffee with the Silver sisters, but the lawsuit hung over me like a dark cloud. Jake and Sarah kept driving by my house, slow and deliberate, like they were watching me. I logged every visit with my cameras, just like Mr. Callahan told me. Their obsession is their weakness, he said. Every time they show up, it proves they're after control, not concern. I clung to that, but the fear was real. What if they won? What if a judge took away my freedom? I started visiting Tom's grave again, something I hadn't done in years. I'd always made excuses. Jake needed money. Sarah had an emergency. But now, I sat by his headstone, talking to him like he was still here. Tom, I messed up, I whispered. I thought I was being a good mom, giving Jake everything, but I lost myself along the way. The wind rustled the trees, and I felt a calm settle over me. I wasn't just fighting for me, I was fighting for the life Tom and I had built, the future he'd wanted for me. The trial date loomed closer, and Mr. Callahan prepped me like a coach before a big game. They have to prove you're incompetent, Evelyn. We just show the truth you're sharp, independent, and done being used. He had everything ready. Dr. Ellis's report, bank records showing every dollar I'd given them, statements from Margaret and the Silver sisters. Even Mr. Jenkins, from the hardware store, was ready to testify about my clear-headed decisions. I wasn't alone anymore. I had an army. The morning of the trial, I woke up at dawn, put on my sharpest navy suit, and looked in the mirror. The woman staring back wasn't the scared, desperate mom I'd been a year ago. She was strong, ready to fight. At the courthouse, I saw Jake and Sarah in the hallway. Jake wouldn't meet my eyes, but Sarah glared, her face cold as ice. Their lawyer, Mr. Grant, looked like he'd done this 100 times. Smooth, confident, dangerous. My stomach twisted, but I held my head high. Mr. Grant's opening statement was a masterclass in lies. Your Honor, Evelyn Harper is a vulnerable, elderly woman showing clear signs of mental decline. She's cut off her loving family, installed excessive security measures out of paranoia, and fallen under the influence of strangers who are isolating her for their own gain. Every word was a dagger, twisting my strength into weakness.
My freedom into insanity. I gripped Mr. Callahan's arm, my heart pounding. Sarah took the stand first, tears streaming down her face like she'd rehearsed in front of a mirror. Evelyn's like a second mom to me, she sobbed. It breaks my heart to see her like this, hostile, confused, pushing us away. It was a performance, and a good one, but Mr. Callahan tore it apart. Mrs. Harper Schmidt, when was the last time you called my client without asking for money? Sarah faltered, her tears drying up fast. We talked about lots of things, she mumbled. Name one date, he pressed. She couldn't. When he asked about the wedding, about her special people comment, she squirmed, saying it was taken out of context. The courtroom felt electric. Jake was next, and seeing him swear to tell the truth while lying about me broke something inside. Mom's always been generous, he said, but lately she's irrational, cutting us off without reason. Mr. Callahan didn't let him off easy. Mr. Harper, how much money did your mother give you over 3 years? Jake shrugged. Maybe 25,000? Try closer to 30, Mr. Callahan said, holding up bank records. And how often did you visit her without asking for money? Jake's silence said it all. Their witnesses were a mess. Mr. Klein, the grumpy neighbor, admitted he'd never even spoken to me. Their doctor, some guy I'd never met, claimed my refusal of his eval proved I was unstable. But Mr. Callahan had Dr. Ellis's report, showing I was sharp as a tack. Mr. Patel, the pharmacist, explained how Sarah tricked him. Margaret and the Silver sisters painted a picture of a woman thriving, not declining. By the time I took the stand, I was ready. I told the court everything, the money, the wedding, the break-in, the threats. I stopped giving them money because I realized they didn't love me, I said, my voice steady. They loved what I could buy them. I'm not confused. I'm free. Mr. Grant tried to trip me up, suggesting I was being manipulated by my new friends. I laughed. For the first time, I have people who care about me, not my bank account. The judge, a stern woman named Judge Larson, listened closely. After both sides rested, she took 2 hours to deliberate. I sat in the hallway, Margaret holding my hand, my heart in my throat. When Judge Larson returned, her voice was clear. Mrs. Evelyn Harper is in full possession of her mental faculties. Her financial decisions are rational and within her rights. This lawsuit appears driven by financial motives, not concern. The request for guardianship is denied. Relief washed over me like a wave. I'd won, not just the case, but my life back. Outside, Jake and Sarah argued with their lawyer, Sarah's eyes burning with rage. Jake glanced at me, and for a split second, I saw a flicker of shame, but it was too late. They'd shown who they were, and I was done. That night, Margaret threw a party at my house. The Silver sisters were there, toasting to justice, to freedom, to me. Evelyn, you didn't just win a trial, Rose said, raising her glass. You won yourself back. She was right. For the first time in years, I felt alive, unburdened by guilt or obligation. I could breathe. A few months later, I made a big move. I sold my house, the one Jake and Sarah had invaded, the one filled with memories of my old life, and bought a bright, airy apartment downtown. Half my savings went to charities that protect seniors from abuse like I'd faced. The other half, that was for me. I took a trip to Italy, something Tom and I had always dreamed of. I signed up for art classes, painted every day, and volunteered at a local community center. I was living, really living, for the first time in years. I never heard from Jake or Sarah again. Word got around that they'd moved to a smaller place, that Sarah finally got a job. Maybe they'd learn what I never taught them, how to stand on their own. Maybe not. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. Some nights I'd sit on my balcony, staring at the stars, thinking about the woman I used to be. She was scared, desperate to be loved, willing to pay any price for it. That woman was gone. In her place was someone new, someone who knew her worth, who'd fought for her freedom and won, My name's Evelyn Harper, and I'm 72 years old. I've learned that love can't be bought, and freedom is worth everything. If my story resonates with you, I'd love to hear what you'd do in my shoes. Share your thoughts. Tell me where you heard this, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, here's to living life on your own terms.